Hello, listeners of the Artversations podcast. Welcome back to another episode. This is Artversations, a meditative conversation about the artistic process. A new artist will sit down with me each week to bridge the gap between the process, the final product, and its infinite transformation. I'm your host, Bree, like the cheese, and I'm thrilled that you're joining me today, especially if it's for the first time. I hope you've had a chance to let your creativity soar today. Allow that right brain to kick into gear, take the reins, and guide you into art. If this is your first tune in, please be sure to stick around and creatively fly into that subscribe button. Whoosh. It's the easiest way to stay up to date about new episodes, and it really helps the podcast grow. If you like what you're hearing, tell your friends and their friends and their friends of friends of friends to tune in as well. Please and thank you. Super stoked to bring you this week's episode, honestly. It's with Kristen in Stanvilic, also known as Tiny Lines on TikTok. She's a multimedia artist who works with film, animation, and dance. Honestly, I feel like a kid in a candy shop with this episode because I've admired her work from afar for a couple months now, and if you've seen her videos on Instagram or not, I highly recommend you check them out. She brings such a unique perspective to the way we visualize and perceive movement, and it was the sweetest treat from Willy Wonka to chat with her. Without further ado, quiet that left brain channel. Shh. And join me for episode 3 of season 4. It really is like a visual representation of what's going on in my head.
Oh, I love that. That's what I'm
sense?
trying to do. Yes, that is exactly what I'm trying to put out.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing in this current moment in time?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so happy to be here chatting with you.
It's like a weird vision of mine that I had, but a very welcome one to have you on. I have looked at your work from afar and you know, we have never actually met in person, but to be able to pick your brain for an hour is like such a treat for me. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for saying that. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to talk with you.
There's a lot that you've been working on recently, which involves the intersection of dance, movement, and multimedia layering. And I'm curious, just as like a first question, like where did you find that initial kind of point to cross paths of those two things? Like, was it during school? Was it very happenstance? Like, where did that come from?
I love getting asked this question actually, because I think about it all the time. I'm like, how did I don't actually know how it happened, but I will say that when I was in my third year and my final year at the School of Toronto Dance Theatre, they do a bunch of like coffee house performances throughout the year. So I wanted to make a film. I was like, I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to make this film. And then I just was, my older sister, who's also a visual artist, she was experimenting with some animation in her university studies. So I was curious, like, what is that? And could I put that on top of a dancer? And so she showed me a little bit. So she was the real person that like introduced me to animation. And then basically on this video of my friend Devin Snell that I made, who is also a classmate of mine, I just drew over the video and I was kind of obsessed. I was like, how do I keep doing this? How do I, like, what even is this?
Cool.
And that video is still up on my Vimeo, and it's wild to watch it back because like, I was so fearless in that moment. I was like just drawing and I was like, this is going to be great. So many things have changed and shifted with that whole process, but it's amazing to look back. I think that was like the first real moment where I started diving into the cross section of multimedia and dance for sure.
Wow, like a sort of just a jump into the deep end, it sounds like you just
I just
tried.
did it. I didn't even I didn't even think about it that much, which is wild because now I'm like, the process is really like time consuming and I have to think about everything a lot, and there's a lot more people involved now. But yeah, back then it was just like, I'm just going to draw over my friend and it's going to be great. And I don't know, I kind of miss that. It's nice to think about that.
The progress of like, just a fearless little jump in the deep end. And then finally I feel like there's now you can really catch an eye, like you have a clear perspective on what you want to do. It does sound like it's a lot more work, but like at least there's a progression happening.
Yeah, and I think that it's like that with dance as well. Like, I don't know if you feel like this from your own dancing, but when you're young or whenever you started dancing, you're just kind of doing it and it's fun and you're jumping in the deep end. And as time goes on, I mean, it changes in amazing ways, but it also changes in weird ways. Like you get more serious about it and everything's a little bit more pressure on you. But as long as you love it.
Yeah, like there's still that passion for you. It's not like a total monotonous job.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think about it all the time. I wake up, I want to do it. I go to bed, I want to do it. Sometimes I'll get out of bed and just go back to my computer and work on stuff. So no, I definitely love it.
That's really cool. I was reading your interview with Purple Glow Mag, and you mentioned that like even though the pandemic was obviously a really hard hit for everyone, like it was actually kind of a nice way for you to just settle into your work mode and really like see where your creativity goes. Like what I'm curious about, like what kind of discoveries you made over these past 18 months, if any.
18 months. Oh my gosh. Has it been that long?
Something like that. I don't, time doesn't exist.
That's so wild to put that number out there. Yeah.
I know, right?
I received what I draw on now, this big screen tablet. I received that in January of this past year. So
nice.
That's when I really started doing it every day and honing in. And I was working at a couple different restaurants before, and also CCDT doing some administrative work. So I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm sure like we all were, what are we going to do? But in a weird way, exactly. In a weird way, it was the best thing for me. And I think I just discovered that I've always heard, that old phrase, like it takes hundreds and hundreds of hours to like hone in on your craft and what you want to do. And I never really, it's not that I didn't believe that. It's just, I was kind of like, like practice makes perfect, all that stuff. And I never felt that way with dance. I was constantly like, there's never going to be enough hours to perfect this. I just can't make it happen for myself. So with this, I think I just really discovered over the pandemic that if I do this every day and I keep pushing myself and looking for new ways to use the animation and new ways to interact with dance and movement, like I can see a clear progression in my work from January. And that's so cool to see because it's rare that you can see like visual representations of improvement. So that's been the biggest discovery, I think, for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Cause I'm assuming you got to just like try everything and anything with all this time. I kind of felt the same way in my work. Like I was really, even though I was alone and I didn't really have a lot of influences outside that I could go to, because I'm a very like, I really like being around other people. That's what fuels my like creative practice. But all of a sudden I had to like sit with my own head and
you're like, who am I? What do I want to do?
What's going on inside this big skull? and what is possible right now too. Like usually most of my work is on stage. So it's like really a shift in how can I adapt? How can I be really open and patient with myself? And yeah, it's kind of like when I look back on my Instagram or like any other logs that I've made over these past few months, it is like you say, like there is a progression that we get to see. I wonder too if like documenting everything and like trying everything and putting it into a project, like even if it's not like your favorite, it's still good to have that archive of those drafts or of those like early works. And because I think it's like you say, like it's never really enough, like we're never actually going to get to a final product, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And I think that also I realized, and I don't know if you realize this too, like we don't have to share everything. You don't have to present everything. And that was something that, you know, you coming from Ryerson, me coming from TDT, like there is this mentality of like, if you're doing something, it's so it can be performed or presented,
Totally.
or you're training to support that performance. But you don't have to, you can just do something and it can just live in your little archive and that's it. And that's really cool because it does take off some of the pressure and it also allows for more play. And then if it's not your favorite, that's great because then you know what you can move away from or you can alter in the end. So yeah.
Totally. I totally agree. There were lots of moments where I like truly just abandoned a project, put it in the trash, never did anything again, you know, and
yeah,
that's okay too, right? Like that's part of the process, the progression of finding a creative voice. Yeah, I think I do want to talk a little bit more about how you layer movement in your work, because as a dancer, when I watched these little videos or these videos that you make, like it really is like a visual representation of what's going on in my head.
Oh, I love that. That's what I'm trying to do. Yes, that is exactly what I'm trying to put out.
Fantastic. Well, and I think as a dancer yourself, like you have a great knowledge of like line and extension and counterbalance, and like while I'm watching these videos, I'm really like, oh yeah, that's where my line of energy is actually going, or like that's really cool that that's translating, I think, because I feel like maybe
that's amazing.
Some people would watch it and be like, what is going on? But as dancers, we're like, oh yeah, there's line.
Non-dancers are always like, what does it mean? Like, what is it? I'm like,
what kind of reactions do you get?
Usually it's from dancers just because that's who I'm like surrounded with in the community, but from like my family or friends from long before dance, they're usually like, it looks cool, like what is it, like what does it mean? Or yeah, I think also like there's a whole this whole genre of videos on Instagram of commercial dance with these like neon animations over them. I don't know if you've ever seen these videos.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and I think that that's what people are always like, oh, you should do something like that because it's very entertaining, it's very fast paced. And honestly, I don't know how to do that because those animations are super external almost. Like they have shapes and they have forms, but they're like influencing the dancer versus what I'm kind of doing, which is the dancer, everything comes from the dancer and then comes out.
Cool.
Which honestly, I wish I could do the other way. That's something that I'm kind of trying to figure out, how to have a dancer in a video and then be animating, and it can be a contrast, maybe not always like a direct duet or relationship, but
cool.
But yeah, I don't know where this train of thought even came from, but oh, what people say. Yeah, usually it's just like, what does it mean? Like, what? I'm like, I don't know what it means. It's just energy. Like, I'm not dancing anymore. So I really miss it. And this is kind of my way of still being a dancer within someone else's body. And then I feel like I'm the lines and I'm the energy lines. So yeah.
Very cool.
If that makes any sense.
Oh my God, absolutely it does. And to say goodbye to dance, like for you, like to transition into doing this kind of work, I mean, you're not really stopping, because you still have a perspective on like what movement can be. I wonder, like And you talk about your sister being a big influence for you. Was she also a dancer?
She wasn't, but
Okay.
we both went to the same arts high school. So she did take dance, but I don't think she would call herself a dancer. But she definitely like understands that world for sure.
I think what I'm trying to say is there's such a like a stereotyped dancers, right? Like they're like always in class and they're like really working hard on dance only.
Yes.
But I wonder if like being a dance enthusiast and creating videos like this, like it's still so much a part of the process to be involved. And you talk a lot about collaboration being like a big part of your process. And I wonder if like without you there, like the dancer isn't informed or like there's a missing element. And so yeah, like I guess what I'm trying to say is like maybe you're not saying goodbye, you're like just looking at it in a different perspective. Does that seem like something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I hope that that's what it is. I just know for myself and for a lot of us, like it can be so emotional when you're kind of defining your relationship with dance, especially when we've gone through these like really rigorous programs. And that also holds like, you know, so much weight in us.
Very, yeah, the trauma.
Yeah. And just, I think that we've also been taught that we constantly need to like have a specific relationship with dance and to define that, like I'm dancing with this company or I'm doing this intensive, like you're constantly like telling people what you're doing. And I think now I am discovering that like I still am dancing in a way and I'm still connected to that whole side, but I don't need to like define it necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. Cause I'm sure a lot of dancers, movement artists are kind of feeling that separation from the practice that we used to have. And I think a lot of that has to do with like being away from other people and like locking ourselves in a room. Because there is such a community that is thriving on each other in the dance world. But yeah, I think your perspective is so unique and so like this addition that you bring to movement. It's like another element, it's another layer. Like it really, for me as someone who's not a super film savvy person, like I really connect with it.
Neither am I.
No way.
No, it's funny because I film like 10% of the videos that are on my like Instagram little portfolio. Like the majority of it is from dancers who will send me videos that they've taken themselves or that someone else has taken for them. I film so little of what it is.
So people send you movement pieces and then you add on to them.
Yeah, and I think the really interesting part about that whole system that I've been doing since like January is that I usually don't have a conversation with them before they film it. Like usually all these videos are pre-filmed, and then someone will message me like, hey, I have footage, do you want to do something with it? Or I'll message someone like, hey, what are you doing? Do you have any footage lying around? Like it's super rare that I'm actually filming, like asking someone to film something for the animation, which is kind of wild because it usually always works out. There's only been like one or two times where I've gone back to the person and be like, I've had a go at it and it's just not, the movement is not conducive to this kind of animation. But that, I think, I don't even know if that's actually ever happened. But yeah, I am now trying to transition into filming people myself, and also like that project I did with our mutual friend Susanna Haight.
Yes.
That was filmed in a studio with a videographer, and that was really informed. Like I've worked with her before, so she really understands like the movement language that would be conducive for the animation and that would really fit together. So that was like the first time that something was really filmed for the purpose of the animation. Wow. Which is crazy because that's like one of my favorite videos. And I think you can kind of tell because it's like, I mean, it's also filmed extremely well. Johnny, who filmed it, is like a true professional, and he did all the lighting and everything. So it's beautifully filmed. But I think that that stuff really excites me because I feel like I have a bit more, I almost feel like I'm choreographing a little bit, even though I did not choreograph any of that. It's just like a different way of kind of the pre-animation stage. I kind of just am able to like mold a bit more of what's going to happen.
That's really interesting. Yeah. When do you get to step in, in the process? At the beginning or completely after?
Like way at the end.
Yeah, because this was for a clothing brand called Rue Carlotta. And so did they reach out to you with clothes and outfits and say, here's what we want to market? Can you make something with it? Or where was that first call or that first DM?
So they had reached out to Susanna because I believe they had worked with her before. She had done probably she does these really interesting videos and photos that she then paints over and scans. It's this whole layering thing.
Yes, I think I've seen a few of those.
Yeah, and they're super beautiful. So I think they messaged her and they had seen a video, the first video that me and Susanna did together. They had seen that. And they were
that,
like,
by the way, that video changed everything for me. When I saw that first video, I was like, what? You could
the one where she's all in red?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just need to tell you. Like, it was so cool.
No, and the wild thing about that video is that the outlines that I did on Susanna, I had never done before. Like I just did it in the moment. It was kind of that going back to that first experience I had with my friend Devin in TDT on that film that I made. It was just like, I'm just going to play around. Like, I wasn't thinking like, this is going to be like this, and then this is going to happen. It was just like, oh, I'm just going to outline her, see what happens. And then it ended up being like, I watched that video over and over and over. I mean, Susanna's dancing is like magical.
So fluid.
But I was like, if I can watch my own work this many times, like I think it's something special, because usually I'll watch something of mine and be like, I'm bored with it. Like, oh, like I have to move on. Yeah. I'm sure you're like that with choreography too. Sometimes you're like, you do it the first time and you're like, this is so cool. And then the second time you see it, you're like, okay, like, let's go. But no, so they reached out to her, and then we just basically like, had a conversation. They sent her the clothing, and then so it was all her running this. She hired Johnny, and then she brought on Alexander Glutch to do the music for it. Cool. So it really stemmed from Susanna. I'm so grateful that she invited me on that project with her, because I feel like that video in itself is like such a great visual representation of what I can send to brands and other people, saying, this is what is possible, because it's of such high quality, just with the quality of dancing and the video quality itself. So I really value that project, because I feel like that was like my first professional gig. I was like, this is so exciting. So I really want to do more stuff like that. That was incredible.
It was really great to have that white backdrop, because it really lets the lines and her outfit with all of the colors and the florals that are involved, like it really does pop. It's for sure very readable frame.
That's a good word for it. Yes, readable.
Yeah, that's so cool. Lots of collaboration, and to couple Susanna's fluidity and like her movements that just kind of feel that same kind of wavy lines that you draw. Like it really is such a great marriage, the two of you, because I think her body is really, really like seaweeding around, and then we get to see these like auras come off of her, and it's like a very ethereal, more expansive movement. I the way I would describe it is that, like, it's just, it really adds such a cool layer that I've never like even thought possible. But I'm all the time, I'm like looking at it in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, so my arm's gonna go up, and then my extension will go past my fingers, and like all of that stuff. It's all being represented, and I think that's really super dope.
Thank you so much. That means a lot, because that's what I'm thinking as well. I'm thinking, oh, if that was my body and I was doing that movement, I would feel the energy, you know, going away from me or coming back in or breaking, or
I wonder if, because I often get a lot of non-dancers or, you know, non-movement artists, they often come up to me and they're like, that was really great, Brie, but I didn't get it. I don't know what you were doing.
I didn't get it. That was my parents' line every time they'd come to a show.
Oh, your parents?
I didn't get it.
Oh, no.
They'd be like, it's beautiful. Mostly my dad, he would be like, it was beautiful, it was incredible. I didn't get it, but it was great.
No. It's a horrible reaction. It's like, what do you mean? Like, I just poured my like blood, sweat, and tears on that stage. And so, but I think, and I hope that with your added element of line and graphic design around the subject, like, I feel like that helps us as the audience to like really see the movement and like really read it. And hopefully more non-dancers will be inclined to have an opinion on movement after seeing these videos.
Oh, for sure. And I think I've experienced that already a little bit with some of the other video artists and visual creators that I interact with on like social media platforms where most of my work lives. They usually will actually have a lot more to say about the movement than I ever thought. I think sometimes I prejudge people that are non-dancers. I'm like, oh, they won't understand. And then they'll describe the movement back to me like, oh, like that was so fluid and it was so long and lengthened. And it's like, yeah, you totally get it. You totally get it. And cool. I think that I don't know about your work, but most of my work leans more towards abstract. Like I'm not really thinking about telling a story or anything like that. So I think it's great because I love to hear people talking about like shape and form and quality, just because I can relate to that more versus, you know, themes, and that stuff's great too. I just I haven't found a way how to incorporate that. That would be like the next step. I'd want to work with a choreographer and a dancer to try to go into that, but that's like a whole nother realm of dance.
I think you're right. I think there's an abstract and there's an abstract theme to your work from what I've gathered, but it still captures some kind of feeling, some kind of emotion, some kind of surrounding setting. Like it's even if there's not like, you know, once upon a time she went to the store, you know, like there's still something happening there. Yeah, cool.
Thank
That's
you.
really cool. Let's talk a little bit about NFTs. Non-fungible tokens, if anyone is unfamiliar with them. And I'm in no way an expert on this.
Neither am I. This is our little our little preview for people. We're not NFT experts, but we can still talk about it.
Yes. As you know, the non-expert of the non-fungible token. So you made this NFT Calm, is that right? The title of it?
Yes.
But you sold it to someone else to use for their project or their collection, is that right?
So someone purchased it or collected it, and it's now just a part of their collection. So they could resell it if they wanted to, but right now it's just sitting in their collection.
Cool. Now, I don't want to get too personal, and let me know if this is not a question to ask, but were you directly paid for that?
Yes. So so basically there are like a bunch of different platforms I guess you could think of them as like stores.
Mm.
And they're all online. And basically all of them have slightly different fees and slightly different like commission, post sale commission rates for the artists and things like that. But basically all of them, you get paid. Sweet. From wherever you're going to sell it, unless you're selling it for nothing, like you're just giving it away. Yeah. But that one was sold on OpenSea, and I sold it for Ethereum. So basically when it was purchased, the Ethereum that the person bought it with, which is a cryptocurrency, if anyone is sometimes curious. It's called E? Yeah, ETH. Okay. ETH. Yeah, ETH. So basically the ETH was just transferred into my crypto wallet after they purchased it. Wow. And then you can transfer Ethereum or Bitcoin or any of that back into real money. I mean, it's all real money, but back into like Canadian dollars or US dollars. That's just a process to do that. Yeah.
Was that a choice that you made? A very cool choice, but was that a choice that you made on the whim, or were you like really planning it out and like, okay, I know I'm going to get this much and I'm going to do that? Like, because it's such a new thing, right? Like, how could you know what's going on? Yeah.
I mean, basically NFTs have actually been around for a lot longer than I think any of us realized. It's just that they're now extremely, there was a wave. The wave has gone down a bit now, but there was this massive wave in like February, a little bit after that, of just NFTs blew up. And it was in mainstream media, like SNL did this skit about it. Like it was very mainstream. But basically I was kind of, I don't know if you've heard of the app Clubhouse.
I have, yes, where everyone can sort of do audio chats and conversations. Yeah, cool. Yeah,
exactly. So I was on Clubhouse, and there was a group of us that I met through an online community, and we were all like obsessed with NFTs, and everyone's like was an artist who we were talking to, and we all usually make digital art. So we were like, how do we make money? Like we want to sell our stuff.
Totally.
So it was like 3 a.m. Clubhouse calls every night, just trying to understand what NFTs are, why we should care, why people should even buy digital art, because it's not physical. And I still don't fully understand that, even as a digital artist, which is strange. So the first NFT that I dropped was very just like a group of us were doing it. We wanted to mint together. Minting is basically when you like officiate your NFT, so it becomes legitimate on the blockchain. And a bunch of us were like, we don't know what we're doing, so we want to do it together. So we all just had a piece of art, and we did it together. And I did it with another friend. Her name is Emily, and we both sold our pieces. So that was super cool.
Very, very cool. Very progressive. And like, it's interesting that you say that they've been around for a long time. I hadn't known, because I only found out about them in like February. I was like, what the heck is this? Is this another Dogecoin?
Like, was someone when people was selling this stuff for like millions and millions of dollars, people were like, what is this? I want to make $1 million. Like, that was me. I was like, I want to make $1 million.
Get rich quick kind of thing. Yeah. Totally. I think it's really cool and awesome to have you be paid directly and like really, really kind of cut out the middleman on like who owns what. I guess because it's digital, like it doesn't need to be stored anywhere except for in the cloud or whatever. So like really like you own it and you can hold on to it until you give it to the exact person you're going to sell it to. And that, like, for me, that's like a really progressive way to keep art like for the artist and then for the consumer. Like, I just find that there's sometimes, regulations that come in, or like big third-party companies that like will take a part of the profit. And then it's like, it doesn't seem so fair to the original artist who made this thing. So I wonder if these NFTs now can like really create a direct pathway from consumer to artist. I don't know. It's a new thing, but
yeah, I mean, like there is always going to be money taken out. Like the sites that the platforms do take a portion. It's a small portion, but well, I mean, it depends on which platform you're on. But
okay,
I think that it definitely is like empowering to be able to kind of feel like you own your art, you have your art, you put it up, and then someone buys it and then it gets directly sent to them through the blockchain and then they own it. I think there are a lot of I wouldn't call them downsides. There are a lot of things that, you know, make me a little bit uncomfortable about NFTs, just because I also don't fully understand it. Like the environmental impact that NFTs have is quite massive. So that was also something that, you know, people are looking for solutions to that and using a separate blockchain and also different types of cryptocurrency to kind of offset that environmental impact. I mean, the other thing is there's a massive hierarchy in the NFT space. There are these platforms that you can't apply to be on. You have to be invited to be on, and they're considered to be, you know, the best platforms to be on. But then they also take the highest fees from your work. So within the space, I mean, within any space, there's always a lot of like moving parts and things that you have to kind of decide if you're going to compromise with. Right. But I do think that it is a space that you can find those pockets of really, really authentic community, especially with other artists. And also you can find spaces where it's exciting to like actually be selling digital work that otherwise, I mean, my work is just sitting on Instagram, really. Right. I mean, like I do certain things for, you know, brands, and I make filters for people, but they all still live on the internet. Like nothing is being transitioned into like, you know, real life. And I'm putting that in quotations, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, no, I don't know what my relationship with NFTs is right now or moving forward, but I'm definitely open to still creating work in that space. I just am taking a bit of it's a lot of information. It's also exciting because it's a lot of learning, but it is a lot.
Yeah, I bet. So like not something that I could learn at school.
You know what? I bet you in the next year or two, there's going to be some sort of NFT 101, like intro to NFTs at UFT or something.
Totally. Sure. Yeah.
History of NFTs.
Yeah. Here we go. We're living in it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Cause you're right. A lot of your work is sitting on Instagram. It's like very accessible and you know, you make these filters that people can use and can collaborate with you on, but it really is just like open to anyone. I wonder too, because virtual reality is something that might be more integrated into dance. I think it is a little bit slowly getting in there, but I wonder if that's any interest to you too, like using the drawings that you make and the animations that you use, but then putting it in a three-dimensional virtual reality space. I don't know, has that come up on your timeline or on your thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had a mentorship back when I was ending my third year in school with an artist named Freya Bjorg Olafsson. And I don't know, I believe they're still teaching at York University. And they're also an incredible dance artist, many things. And Freya like specializes in VR, and she does a lot of stuff in that space. So I got into the suit and we were doing dance in a 3D virtual reality space. And I've never visited that again, but I've been thinking about it a lot, how I could make the lines into that virtual space and also make it super reactive. So you could be moving in this space and then my lines could be actually interacting with you. I have no idea how how to even like enter that arena right now, but no, that's something that once we're living in a post-COVID life and we're able to really have that's one thing that I don't think I could figure out by myself here. I would need to be in that kind of like actual studio space and working with people that are specialized in that in that arena. But no, that's definitely something I've thought about. And also just, just the more spaces it can be in. And like for example, Adelheid, like Heidi Strauss's company here. I don't know if you've seen some of their performances, but they use they're probably like I didn't realize it at the time of watching all their shows a couple years ago, but they've been a massive inspiration just because the way that they intersect virtual reality, multimedia, everything with dance, it's pretty innovative, honestly.
Yeah, it's never really been done before, it feels like.
Not here, at least. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. That's so cool to be able to react in real time. Like I really resonated what you said about as I move my arm, I would see the reverb of movement.
It would be so cool. It would be so cool.
As an improv artist, that would be monumental in changing the way I look at my movement. It's so kind of different dimensional and really kind of putting animations into real life. And I wonder if that would be a really trippy experience at first, but
probably
with practice, it would be better. But yeah, wow.
Well, and even having applications and training, because I remember training and they constantly be pretend you have an energy line coming out of your arm or your leg. And I'm like, what if you could take a ballet bar class in VR with the lines coming off of you? How would that change how you feel about your lines? And I mean, the exciting thing is the possibilities are endless. It's just how do you get in that door? I don't know. I have to figure that out. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll make a step in there at some point, because from what I'm seeing already, it's just so innovative, just like Adelheid. It's so what we need right now of the intersection of digital and movement. And because everything is online right now, we're still living in that virtual world. We might as well use it.
Exactly. No, I totally agree.
And you've also talked about working with musicians, or I think maybe coming up soon, you're going to be collaborating with musicians. I saw Ramona V is one of your collaborators.
Oh, yes.
Has that happened yet, or am I?
It hasn't happened yet, but we've been working on a music video for a year and a half. It's completely animated. So
cool.
We've taken a pause from that collaboration, but I recently I talked to her and we're definitely gonna get back into it. But that's all done in pixel animation, so it looks like a little Game Boy kind of thing. That was another thing that I spent the first probably 5 months of quarantine here. I was I'm gonna learn how to pixel animate.
Wow.
So I mean, I haven't revisited that in a long time. You just reminded me, actually. I gotta start preparing myself to get back into that project. But no, I love collaborating with musicians. I've collaborated with my friend Alexander Glutch for many years. We went to high school together. So he's a constant collaborator. And then I'm filming a music video in September. I won't say the band just because I'm not sure if it's on the down low, but
no worries.
They're an indie band in Toronto. So we'll be filming with a dancer, and then I'll be animating over it. So it will be another really amazing experience of being at the shoot and being in the space and being able to give a little bit of input.
Yes.
So so I'm really excited for that. But collaboration, honestly, I don't know what I'd be doing without collaboration, just because I don't know about how you, and when you're a teacher, so obviously you're constantly working with other bodies in this space, but even for choreography, I love collaborating with other people.
It's magical. It's like an unspoken language, even if we're talking English. It's really, it's the closest thing I think to magic that I've ever found. And it really it's I can't do it alone. I sometimes will work on something by myself and I feel like something's missing, or it's good to get a second eye even too, of just like,
Yeah.
hey, can you watch what I'm doing? Or like, can you give me another opinion, so that it's not just my little blind mind, going into the movement. It's not enough almost.
Yeah, and honestly, even if you can do it alone, that doesn't mean you have to. Like,
right.
You can always be inviting other people into the space for sure.
Yeah. Collaboration is key to keeping art alive and keeping us moving forward, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. When you work with musicians, is there any talk about like sound waves and frequencies and like all the nitty-gritty technical stuff, or do you just listen to the song and then it influences something?
It's mostly just, I'll send them. It's really similar to how it's like a dancer will send me a video, I'll work on it, and then I'll send that video to the music artist. It's pretty rare that I get into kind of the nitty-gritty details, also because the musicians I worked with are just so, it's like working with a dancer who can improvise. Like, you almost don't want to touch it too much, because you're like, I chose you for a reason. I really want you to just like do what you do. So, I mean, I would say the whole thing you just said about sound waves, I am super interested in the animations that I do without a dancer, just the lines. I really want to figure out how to make those reactive. So you can, like those old screensavers on like your old Macintosh computer.
Totally. That's what I'm totally picturing that. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm curious. I know it's funny because that's so like old school, but yeah, I'm really curious about how to like input those animations so that they're self-making, set to music and set to sound waves and like super reactive. But that's another thing that I'm curious about. That's on the list. So, but yeah, no, I love working with musicians. I think they also understand movement, I think, a lot more than you think. Not you think, but just we think in general.
Totally. Yeah. Music is a big part of my like initial process, but I would love to talk to a musician about like how movement and dance like starts them off. That would be like very interesting to hear about.
Oh, you should have someone on the podcast to talk about that.
Yeah, if you know anyone, I'd love to.
Yeah, I'll send you some names.
Sweet. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love to hear about like where things start, where the initial thought is. Cool. Okay. So yeah, so music video coming out in September. Very cool. By the time this podcast comes out, I'm sure we can have access to it, but let me know when it does become available, because I'd love to see it. Yeah, I mean, we talked about so much. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I did want to ask a little bit about your sister, and you have like a collective called the Daughter Collective. Is that still active?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that will always be like active in some way. We live together, and she had her studio here. She just moved it, but we're constantly working together. Like, it's
sweet,
a constant, but we're not like, we're not calling it anything right now. We're just like in flux, I would say. But yeah,
totally fair.
The Daughter Collective we made a few years back when we were presenting like an installation, and we're like, we need a name. What are we going to call ourselves? I'm sure you have those moments where you're like, what do I call my piece? Like,
I know. Like, I just want it to be untitled. Like, no one look at me.
Yeah, exactly. So
cool.
So yeah, but no, we're still doing stuff together. I love working with her. She's super inspiring to me, and like she's always the person. I don't know if you have this with your work. She's the person that like okays it. Like, she's the last person I show the video to, and I'm like, are we good to go? And she'll be like, so yeah, go. Yeah.
Oh, I have sisters too, and I know that bond is very strong. That's wonderful that you can collaborate together. Yeah. And like, obviously you'll be sisters forever, so you can work on whatever projects come up eventually. Wow. Okay, cool. No worries at all. I don't want to, beat a dead horse if it's not running. But no, this is so cool. Kristen, I'm so excited that you came on today. And I think a lot of people have admired your work, and I'm thrilled that we get to share our chat with everyone. I did want to give you a couple minutes to plug anything that you have going on, any, social media or anything you want to plug. The mic is yours.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can find me on Instagram at Kristen Stambulik, and then I think my name on there is Tiny Lines.
Love that.
So you can search either of those. And then on my Instagram, I just have one of those link trees with, my Vimeo and other interviews I've done. Also check out my filters on my Instagram. I'm trying to think of, I can't talk about that actually.
Oh no.
So I'm doing so many things right now that I'm like, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. But there are many things in the works. So stay tuned, because you will see me posting about them when I am allowed to. Very
cool. All of that will be linked below, and go and check out Kristen's work. It's absolutely stunning. It's so cool.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. Thank you for making time throughout your busy schedule and, NFT makings and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I've got a whole lab in here where I'm making NFTs. So.
Yeah. Yes, in your new home. Yeah. Thank you so much. This is really, really fun.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I really enjoyed this.
I hope our paths cross in person soon.
Yes, they will.
I hope so.
They will, I'm sure. Yes.
Okay, I'll stop the recording. Thank you so much for listening to the Artversations podcast. Please help the podcast community continue to grow by clicking subscribe or follow on your podcast platform, and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at ArtversationsPod. You'll find photos of the guest you just heard, plus highlights and quotes from each episode. Let's keep the Artversation going. Send in a DM with your thoughts about art and any questions you might have for guests. Special thank you goes out to Jen Marquez and Maxim Bartnowski for their contributions. And thank you, listener. Till next time.